commence the 8th chapter of Moments, A House is Not a Home by Zan Gaudioso. Now, looking at the title, can you tell me what is the difference between a house and what's the difference between a home? We all know a home is a house and a house is a home. Is that what you're trying to tell me? So, house is the structure, the place, okay? And home, the house becomes a home when the entire family is staying there. You right? So, you remember we all say home sweet home. Do we say house sweet house? No. House is the place, the four walls that make the house. Yeah, that's the place. But a home is when your family is over there, when you're staying there. Yeah, that's the reason we say home sweet home. Getting it? Good. Let's know about the author before we move about the saying a house is not a home. Yeah. So, Zan Gaudioso is an author based in California. She has contributed stories to and edited the famous Chicken Soup for the Soul book series. You've heard of the Chicken Soup? You must put this in your to-do list. You should definitely read them. These books consist of short stories that seek to comfort and inspire readers. She is also co-author of the award-winning book The Buddha Next Door. Zan is currently working on a documentary about happiness while also writing a weekly blog on the same subject. So if really interested, please visit her blog and get to know more about it. You'll really love it. Yeah. So now let's talk about the plot of the story. A House is Not a Home reflects the challenges of being a teenager and the problems of growing up. The narrator in this story is a teenager, so it's his viewpoint basically. When he goes to a new school, he finds it difficult to make new friends and adjust to a new place. He feels lonely and depressed. He needs time to adjust to the new situation. Generally, that's the case with everyone. Whether you shift a school, whether you shift your residence, whether you move to another city, all the same, your workplace, it takes time to adjust. After some days, his house catches fire and he finds that his life has ended. He feels the loss of his home badly. The boy is deeply saddened by the loss of his pet cat. But when his schoolmates show their concern for him, his whole vision for the life changes and he again starts taking interest in life. So, life is all about ups and downs. We all face ups, we all face downs. So, when you are facing ups, don't feel really proud and, don't fly in the air. And likewise, when you are facing downs, when, their situations are bad, don't be depressed. Don't give up hopes. Always, if you have fallen, please stand up because that makes you a winner. So, based on the similar theme, let's move ahead to know the story in detail. My first year of high school felt awkward. After leaving junior high, at the head of my class, with all the seniority, the upper grade levels could afford me. It felt strange starting over as a freshman. Now, it was his first year of high school, okay? High school first year. Remember, he finished the junior. But what happened was, after leaving junior high, as the head of my class, with all the seniority, the upper grade levels could afford me. It felt strange starting over as a freshman. Now, in his, junior school, now this is his first year in the high school. So, in the junior, he was basically leading it. He was the head over there. He was at the seniority level. So, he enjoyed all the benefits as a leader, right? He was leading the entire thing. But now when he came to the high school, the first year, obviously, he had to start from scratch. That is, he was the first year student. He was a fresh man. So he did not have any such perks just like he had in the junior, yeah, being the head. The school was twice as big as my old school, and to make matters worse, my closest friends were sent to a different high school. I felt very isolated. Now what he says is, he says, now this new school was literally double the size of my old school. It was way bigger. But to add to my problems, all my best friends, all my closest friends had been sent to a different high school. They were not with me. So I felt very isolated, in the sense having minimal contact or little in common with others. I was aloof. I was, separate from everybody. I was feeling very lonely. I missed my old teachers so much that I would go back and visit them. You're pretty used to someone, you're pretty used to something, so you tend to go back. So he used to go there and visit them. They would encourage me to get involved in school activities so that I could meet new people. So they used to guide me. They used to tell me, do one thing, get used to the school. Involve yourself in different activities that happen over there. And because as you indulge in that, you will come across new people and you will make friends. They told me that in time I would adjust and probably end up loving my new school more than I had my old one. He says, this is the time, this is how you will adjust, and maybe by the he would end up definitely loving the school way better than his old school. He would get adjusted so nicely that it wouldn't bother him anymore. They made me promise that when that happened, I would still come by and visit them from time to time. They said, even if that happens, that you tend to forget your old school, don't worry. You can come back from time to time and meet us. We can definitely stay in touch. I understood the psychology in what they were saying, but I took some comfort in it nonetheless. So I understood what they actually meant. What was their intention by saying this? So if I would get used to, it would be good for me. Yeah, I always had the backup that whenever I felt lonely or isolated, I could definitely come and visit them. But yes, I definitely understood their intention and also took comfort that, okay, fine, if that happens, great, I can come whenever I want and at the same time make new friends over there. One Sunday afternoon, not long after I had started high school, I was sitting at home at our dining room table doing homework. So now it was one Sunday afternoon and it was really, he was still just new to the school. So he was sitting at home on this dining table and he was doing his homework. It was a cold and windy fall day and we had a fire going in our fireplace. Now, all these places abroad, where you have real good winters, you have this fireplace specially built up. Yeah, they use that every day. They put the fire on and then they sit around it because there it's extremely cold, unlike here in India. So he said, yes, it was a cold, windy fall day and the fire was on at the fireplace. As usual, my red tabby cat was lying on top of all my papers, purring loudly and occasionally swatting at my pen for entertainment's sake. Now he had a pet cat, Tabby. Tabby cat, she was lying on top of the papers, yeah, and she was purring loudly, making loud sounds of the cat, and occasionally even she was swatting his pen, she actually hit his pen just to have fun with him for entertainment's sake because he was concentrating there and she had no one to play with, so she tried to have fun with him. She was never far from me, they were always together. I had rescued her when she was a kitten. And somehow she knew that I was the one responsible for giving her the good life. So, animals do understand the language of love. They cannot talk, they cannot understand. They understand also. So, when you teach them actions, they do it. But they understand more the language of love. So, he had saved her when she was a kitten. Maybe she was in some kind of trouble and he saved her. And she knew that it was he who had given her that good new life. Maybe she would have been dead by then. So she was very attached to him. My mother kept stoking the fire to keep the house nice and warm. When you stoke the fire, you feed and tend the fire. You have these long metal rods where you make the fire more stronger by moving it. So she was stoking the fire to keep it nice and warm. Suddenly, I smelt something strange and then I noticed it. Smoke pouring in through the seams of the ceiling. Suddenly, there was a strange smell. And then also, I noticed something strange. What was it? You know, the ceiling of the house, from the seams, from the corners, there was smoke coming in. The smoke began to fill the room so quickly that we could barely see. There was a big fire, so there was a lot of smoke, and it came in such a speed that they could hardly see anything in the room. Groping our way to the front door, we all ran out into the front yard. Groping as in searching blindly or uncertainly by feeling with the hands. The room was filled with smoke, so they could not even see where they are and what it is. So they were quickly trying to find where the door is. Now you know where you live. You actually know, where to go. So they tried getting it and they all ran out into the front yard. By the time we made our way outside, the whole roof was engulfed in flames and it was spreading quickly. So till they could find their way out, and as soon as they were out and they saw the house, the roof, the entire top part of the house was engulfed, as in sweep over so as to surround or cover it completely. It was completely covered with fire. It was totally burnt. I ran to the neighbors to call the fire department while I watched my mother run back into the house. Now this is presence of mind. He quickly ran to the neighbor's house to call the fire department, and just as he was going to his neighbor's house, he saw his mom running back into the house. Yes, into the same house which was burning, which was in flames. My mother then ran out of the house carrying a small metal box full of important documents. Now, the elders generally, now the youngsters might get panicky in such a situation. Anybody would. But at that point of time, remember, you need to keep your cool. See, if you get panicky, your brain doesn't work. But if you are now, I don't mean peace, that let the house burn. That's not what I mean. But you have to stay on the alert mode. Now, you have to know that you have the chance to go and bring things out. Now, what did she do? She ran in again, to get a box which was full of important documents. Now, there are certain documents which you need to be very, very careful about. See, more than money, more than jewelry, documents are important because then further you need them. Of course, you need the money and jewelry too, but then that can be done again. But documents are a pain to get back. So she went in to get those documents. She was on the alert mode. She dropped the case on the lawn, and in a crazed state, she ran back again into the house. She was trying to save whatever was important, whatever she could bring out. She was trying her level best. I knew what she was after. The narrator, the teenager, the son was watching the mother. My father had died when I was young, and I was certain that she was not going to let his pictures and letters go up in flames. See, the son understands the mother. That bond is there. He knew that, why she's going back again. Now she wants to go and get the pictures and letters of my dad, who is no more. See, there's a very strong bond. See, that person may not be with you. In fact, you miss that person more when he or she is not with you. They are no longer with you. So she wanted to keep those memories. The fond memories of her husband. She would make sure no matter what, she took that risk again. She ran into the house to bring them all out. They were the only things that she had to remember him by. Those were the things that actually she could think of him. See, they're always in your heart. You can never, brainwash that. You can never remove them from your heart. But sometimes you need those pictures. They keep you alive. In fact, you keep them alive in your memories. Still, I screamed at her, Mom, no. Says, Mom, please don't. Now you don't go in. I was about to run after her when I felt a large hand hold me back. I tried to go behind her, but someone caught me back. It was a fireman. I hadn't even noticed that the street had already filled with fire trucks. I was trying to free myself from his grasp, yelling, "You don't understand, my mother's in there." Now, when he saw the mother going back, he tried to run after her to stop her, but somebody stopped him. It was a fireman. And he didn't even realize that all the fire trucks had already come because he had called them. I was trying to free. He's telling him, "Look, let me go. My mom is there. You please let me go." He was screaming, "You don't understand." He held on to me while other firefighters ran into the house. He did not let me go, but yes, the other firefighters, they went in to bring my mom out. He knew that I wasn't acting very logically and that if he were to let go, I'd run. See, these are experienced people. They are way elders. So he did not let him go because he knew if I leave him free, he will run into the house. And definitely it wasn't right for him to do so. But that time this child, his presence of mind wasn't there. He had gone blank. He didn't know what he was saying or what he was doing. So the fireman just stopped him. He was right. "It's all right. They'll get her," he said. He said, "You don't worry. They will bring her back." He wrapped a blanket around me and sat me down in our car. He just wrapped a blanket around me and he made me sit in the car. Soon after that, a fireman emerged from our house with my mom in tow. Now, he was literally towing my mom. He quickly took her over to the truck and put an oxygen mask on her. Now, she had gone, that whole house was filled with smoke. So you can imagine if you inhale that smoke, you lose consciousness and at times even die. So they quickly brought her out and they put the oxygen mask on her so that she could start breathing. I ran over and hugged her. All those times I ever argued with her and hated her vanished at the thought of losing her. See, he had already lost his father. And his mom, he saw she was going back into the fire. So he could see that he's nearly losing her as well, which he could not even think. At that point of time, he said, all those times I ever argued with her and I also hated her. At that point of time, everything vanished. For me right now, she was the most important person and I couldn't afford to lose her. So all that vanished. "She's going to be okay," said the fireman. The fireman said, "Don't worry, child. She'll be okay. She just inhaled a little smoke." And then he ran back to fight the fire while my mother and I sat there dazed. So he put that oxygen, then she was a little better. And because she had inhaled, she had, taken in a little smoke because she had gone in there. And now she was feeling a little better. These two people, mother and son, sat while the firefighter went back to put out the fire. They were dazed, unable to think or react properly. They were bewildered. They were totally in a state of mess mentally. I remember watching my house burn down and thinking that there was nothing I could do about it. See, nature is something, when it comes to floods, water, when it comes to tsunami, when it comes to fire, they are way stronger. You cannot control them no matter what. So he was so helpless when he saw the house burning down. He says, "I could do nothing about it." 5 hours later, the fire was finally out. Imagine it took the firefighters 5 hours. Our house was almost completely burnt down. But then it struck me, I hadn't seen my cat. Suddenly he realized after 5 hours, oh my God, where's my pet? Where was my cat? Much to my horror, I realized that she was nowhere to be found. He went around trying to see her wherever possible, but she was nowhere. Then all at once it hit me, it struck me, the new school, the fire, my cat. I broke down in tears and cried and cried. I was suffering loss big time. When he saw that he's not getting his cat, then he just, sort of recollected the whole thing that first of all, I have just entered my new school. Then this fire breaks open and now my pet is lost. So, it was too much of grief, too much of pain to take, and so he broke down. Broke down as in he started crying, and he was suffering loss big time. Now, if I just give you this line and if I give you a reference, I was suffering loss big time. What were the different losses? These were the different losses. So big time means a lot of them together, and which was difficult to handle. The firemen wouldn't let us go back into the house that night. Now, it was not, safe for them to go there back. I mean, everything was all burnt down. So how could they even go there? So definitely they were not allowed. It was still too dangerous. Dead or alive, I couldn't imagine leaving without knowing about my cat. Now, he was not sure whether she is dead or she's alive, but he wanted to make sure that what has happened to her, how could he leave from there? Regardless, I had to go. Now, he tried a lot, he couldn't find her, so eventually he had to leave. We piled into the car with just the clothes on our backs and a few of the firemen's blankets, and made our way to my grandparents' house to spend the night. We piled into the car as in we got into or out of a vehicle in an unorganized manner. They were shattered. They were broke mentally, physically. They didn't know what to do. The whole house had burnt down to ashes. So they just got into the car. They were so blank. They were so dazed. They got into the car with just the clothes on their backs. That's it. A few of the firemen's blankets because they had, put it around them, and they went to their grandparents' house to spend the night. The next day, Monday, I went to school. When the fire broke out, I was still wearing the dress I had worn to church that morning, but I had no shoes. Now, it was Monday and his mom insisted that, look, you need to go to school. Don't stay back. Because if he would stay back, he would keep thinking about the same thing. It's better he would go to school and change his mind. So when the fire had broken out, now remember it was a Sunday afternoon, they had come from church. So he was still wearing that dress, right, of the church. And I had no shoes. He had removed his shoes because he was at the dining table doing his homework. I had kicked them off when I was doing my homework. They became yet another casualty of the fire. Casualty as in the person killed or injured in a war or an accident. Here it is the pair of shoes. The pair of shoes also got burnt in that fire. So they are casualty. So I had to borrow some tennis shoes from my aunt. Now obviously he couldn't go barefooted. So he borrowed tennis shoes from his aunt. Why couldn't I just stay home from school? My mother wouldn't hear of it, but I was totally embarrassed by everything. He says, why do I have to go to school? I am not in the right shape mentally and physically. Why do you want me to go? But his mom insisted. She would not take it. She said, no, just go. And I was totally embarrassed by everything. Now, he was not in the uniform. He didn't have the right shoes. He didn't even have his bag, his books. He had nothing, but his mom sent him to school. So obviously he was embarrassed. The clothes I was wearing looked weird. I had no books or homework, and my backpack was gone. All these things, added to that. I'm going to feel odd. I'm going to look like a black sheep. I'm going to be the odd one in the school. I had my life in that backpack. The more I tried to fit in, the worse it got. My backpack was my life. Everything used to be in that backpack, his school backpack. Was I destined to be an outcast and a geek all my life? Now, because he is facing that bad situation, the hard situations of life, the big challenges, he feels that he is an outcast, a person who has been rejected or ostracized by their society. So why am I the odd one, an unfashionable or socially inept person? He says, why am I to be an outcast or a geek? All my life, every time I'm supposed to be the odd one out, that's what it felt like. Now, when something happens, you generalize it. This always happens with me. I'm born with a bad luck, blah, blah. You bring it all that way. So currently that was his situation. I didn't want to grow up, change, or have to handle life if it was going to be this way. He says, if life, this is the definition of life, and if I have to still grow up, I have to change, or if I have to handle life, and if life is like this, I don't want it. I definitely don't want it. I just wanted to curl up and die. I just wanted, arrange oneself as if in a ball. He just wanted to put himself inside somewhere and he just wanted to die. I walked around school like a zombie. Zombies who a dull and apathetic person, a person who has little or no feelings at all. So that is what he was feeling. Everything felt surreal. Surreal as in strange, bizarre. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Everything was very vague, very strange around me, and I had no idea what was going to happen. All the security I had known from my old school, my friends, my house, and my cat had all been ripped away. So all the things that he really loved, that made him feel really good, his old school, friends, house, cat, all of them had been taken away from him. They had all been ripped away. They were no longer with him. So he really felt empty. When I walked through what used to be my house after school that day, I was shocked to see how much damage there was. Whatever hadn't burnt was destroyed by the water and chemicals they had used to put out the fire. So on his way back from school, he went to see his house. What was the condition of the house? He says, he was shocked to see the damage. Whatever hadn't burned was destroyed. Now, whatever was remaining, what had not burned fully, whatever was remaining was still destroyed by the water and the chemicals which they had used to put out the fire. The only material things not destroyed were the photo albums, documents, and some other personal items that my mother had managed to heroically rescue. Only material things left were those things which the mother took all the risk, took with all the courage, went into that burning house and brought them out. And those things were the photo albums, the documents, and some other personal items. With all the bravery, she had brought them out. But my cat was gone and my heart ached for her. My heart was in pain. I was really missing her. There was no time to grieve. My mother rushed me out of the house. We would have to find a place to live and I would have to go buy some clothes for school. There was no time to sit and grieve over all this. We had to go and we had to start everything from scratch. We had to go and find a place to live. We also had to go and buy some clothes for the school. Everything was to be done. We had to borrow money from my grandparents because there were no credit cards, cash, or even any identification to be able to withdraw money from the bank. Now, everything had got burnt. You talk of the credit cards, you talk of any identity, all the cards that they had, everything had got burnt. So obviously they had to borrow the money from the grandparents. Everything had gone up in smoke. Everything was burnt. That week, the rubble that used to be our house was being cleared off the lot. Now the house had come down, it had been ashes. So the rubble are the leftovers. Everything that had fallen, that was burnt, all that was being moved away. Even though we had rented an apartment nearby, I would go over to watch them clear away the debris. So they had rented an apartment nearby, but still he would go and see them clearing that house. House as in the debris, the remains. Hoping that my cat was somewhere to be found. He used to go there every day, not to actually see the house, but yes, he was going there in the hope to see maybe my cat is somewhere. She was gone. I kept thinking about her as that vulnerable little kitten. He said, I was just thinking about her when she was that little kitten, when she was, probably ready to die. She was in that bad shape, in that bad condition. I remember that phase of her where she had started life with me. In the early morning, when I would disturb her and get out of bed, she would tag along after me, climb up my robe and crawl into my pocket to fall asleep. Tiny little kitten. So, he's recalling those moments that knew when she had come initially, like, when he would get up and disturb her sleep, she would also get up, she would go along with him, climb up his dress, his robe, and slip into his pocket and go and be very cozy and sleep over there. I was missing her terribly. Pets become family. At one point of time, of course, when they're staying with you for so many long days, they tend to become family members. So yes, he was missing her terribly. He was thinking of all those moments, she had had. It always seems that bad news spreads quickly, and in my case, it was no different. Well, that's the case with everybody. Any bad news spreads like fire. And his house had caught fire, that also had spread like fire. Everyone in high school, including the teachers, was aware of my condition, of my plight, dangerous, difficult, or otherwise unfortunate situation. They were all aware what I was going through. I was embarrassed as if somehow I were responsible. Saying I was really embarrassed. I used to feel bad. I used to feel guilty, as though to say I was responsible for it. What a way to start off at a new school. Now it's a new school, and what impression have I laid? What is happening with me? What will people think about me? I don't even know the people yet enough, but still I stood no choice. This was not the kind of attention I was looking for. He said, this is not how I wanted the people to know me. They should know me by my work, by whatever I do, not like this, that pitiful situation that I am in and everyone takes pity on me. This is not what I was looking for. The next day at school, people were acting even more strange than usual. So again, next day when he went, they were acting very strange. As it is, he used to hardly talk to anybody. There was no communication, but still people were looking at him with very odd eyes. I was getting ready for gym class at my locker. So they had a gym class at their locker. He was there at the locker getting ready for the gym class. People were milling around me. Milling as in they were moving in an aimless manner. They were just going round and round me. Just going. It was aimless. And asking me to hurry up. They kept telling, oh, let's hurry up. Let's go to the gym. Hurry up. I thought it strange. Why are they doing that? But in the light of the past few weeks, nothing would surprise me. Now, for all the last few weeks, whatever I had gone through, what worse could happen? So he was just like, okay, maybe something else coming up. So he had got so used to the bad luck, all the unfortunate things happening to him. So he says, nothing would really surprise me, maybe something else. To add on, it almost seemed that they were trying to shove me into the gym, as in push hard. They were trying to get me into the gym as fast as possible. Then I saw why. Why were they doing all that? There was a big table set up with all kinds of stuff on it just for me. They had taken up a collection and bought me school supplies, notebooks, all kinds of different clothes, jeans, tops, sweatsuits. It was like Christmas. Finally, there was a twist to his sorrow. Sort of the sorrow ending. Some pleasure, some reason to smile, some reason to be happy. And what was that? The people there in the new school, they had taken up some collection. They all contributed a little bit, and with that contribution, they bought so many things for him, and they had kept all those things on the gym table to give it to him. And what were the things they bought? School supplies, notebooks, and all kinds of different clothes that he needed. The jeans, the tops, the sweatsuits, suit consisting of a sweatshirt and sweatpants worn when exercising or as leisure wear. So basically all that he required for the school. It was like Christmas. He felt so happy suddenly. His happiness knew no bounds. He was, that thing had really changed for him. I was overcome by emotion. Succeeded in dealing with a problem or an emotion. I had overcome it. People who had never spoken to me before were coming up to me to introduce themselves. He had not yet introduced himself or the others had not introduced to him because he had just started the new school. He had not got used to everybody yet. He had not mingled with them. So now those who had never even approached him before now started approaching him, and they all introduced themselves. I got all kinds of invitations to their houses. Their genuine outpouring of concern really touched me. They actually did it out of love, out of concern, genuine outpouring, an outburst of strong emotion. Here it was concern, it was care, it was love. And this gesture of theirs actually, made him feel very, very happy. In that instant, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and thought for the first time that things were going to be okay. Suddenly, that positive thought, that positive flow started entering his head. His head was filled with darkness. There was no ray of hope. But when this happened to him, he started feeling good. He started feeling that things were going to be okay now. I made friends that day. A month later, I was at my house watching them rebuild it. So now the house was being rebuilt. It was being constructed again. So I was over there watching them do it. But this time it was different. I wasn't alone. I was with two of my new friends from school. Two of my friends who were really close by now, they were standing with me. I was not alone. I had company. I was with my friends. Now I was sitting there watching my house being rebuilt when I realized my life was doing the same thing. So just like his house was being reconstructed, so was his life. His life, which had only got pain and sufferings, now was sort of getting happier. It was turning, it was twisting. Why? He had friends now with him. While we sat there on the curb, on the edge over there, planning my new bedroom, I heard someone walk up to me from behind and say, "Does this belong to you?" So while we were sitting and talking, my friends, we were trying to see, okay, now since the house is being reconstructed, obviously he would change the plan of his room. So he was planning his bedroom. And suddenly he heard a voice from behind him, "Does this belong to you?" When I turned around, can you guess what was it? It was a month later, after the house had got burnt. He had lost hopes of his cat. What happened? When I turned around to see who it was, I couldn't believe my eyes. A woman was standing there holding my cat. I leapt up and grabbed her out of the woman's arms. He was like, "Oh my God." You just imagine where you lose hope for more than a month, and after a month you get that thing. You can imagine how happy you will be. He was literally in seventh heaven. He just grabbed Tabby from the woman's arms. I held her close to me and I cried into that beautiful orange fur. He had tears rolling down the way he hugged the cat. She purred happily, even she was equally happy to come back to him. My friends were hugging me, hugging the cat and jumping around. There was happiness everywhere. Everything was going so beautifully. Apparently, my cat had been so freaked by the fire. So what had actually happened to the cat? She was so freaked, she was so scared by the fire that she ran over a mile away from that house. So when the fire had broken out, even now it was smoky. They all were trying to find. So God knows when the cat went, where, how. Even the cat ran out and she ran a mile away from that house. Her collar had our phone number on it, but our phones had been destroyed and disconnected. The number was there, but the problem was that the phones were not there. The lines had been destroyed. So obviously there was no connection. This wonderful woman took her in and worked hard to find out whose cat it was. Somehow she knew this cat was loved and sorely missed. She could make out that now the phone number was there, so obviously it belonged to somebody. And you could make out the cat was probably very lonely. So she knew that this cat was really loved and someone is definitely missing her a lot, the owner. As I sat there with my friends and my cat curled up in my lap, all the overwhelming feelings of loss and tragedy seemed to diminish. Finally, I could feel that all the overwhelming feelings of loss and tragedy, all that I had lost, every time I was cribbing over it, I was like feeling empty without it. All those ill feelings, those sufferings, those pains, those grievances, all of them started disappearing. I felt gratitude for my life, my new friends, the kindness of a stranger, and the loud purr of my beloved cat. I felt grateful. I was thanking God. God, you finally are giving me a new house. You have given me new friends. You have brought my cat back to me, which I had nearly lost, sort of lost. He was now counting his blessings. My cat was back and so was I. This line is very important. My cat was back and so was I. My cat had returned, but even I, who was an original happy person, even I was coming back to life. I, who had given up hope, sort of a hopeless person, not taking interest in anything, suddenly I saw the ray of hope. I saw everything going so beautiful in my life, and there even I was back in action. I was back to square one. The good, happy person that I was, today I was back to that. So you see, this is the story of a teenager. A teenager who went through a lot, through hell in life at an early age, and of course, then gradually things... See, it's always said, day is followed by night, night is followed by day. It's a cycle. It's a continuous process. So if you experience sorrow, if you experience any kind of grief, don't worry. The sun is going to rise very soon. So, home is where love resides. Memories are created. Friends always belong, and laughter never ends. This is said by a paragraph. Now, just see, this is actually the definition of a home. You find your friends, you find love over there, you create many memories over there, and of course, it's a place where laughter never ends. So if I keep this as a checklist for you, do you think all this is there in your homes, not in your houses, in your homes? Please make sure that all these are there in your home. If not, start creating it right from today, right from now. Go for it and keep watching and keep learning.